Here we have the function x dividing by the square root of xy minus x, and we want to find the limit of f of x as x approaches negative infinity. And so here's the graph. So as x gets moves to the left side, so as x approaches infinity, it looks like the y is approaching -1. So that's what we're expecting. So here we have this. And to simplify for this type of quotient right here, again, what we want to do is look at the denominator and then find the one with the largest exponent. In this case, it's x squared, but it's inside the square root. And so what we want to do is just divide the top, both the top and the bottom by the square root of x squared. So divide by the square root of x squared and divide by the square root of x squared. And then for things like this right here, we have to be careful with the square root of x squared, because the square root of x squared is equal to x or negative x, depending on where x is going, because it's like the absolute value of x. That's what it is. And so it's equal to x if x is positive, or meaning x is approaching infinity. So if x is going towards infinity, then obviously x is positive, and then it's equal to negative x if x is going towards negative infinity. The reason for that is because if x is positive, then we just get x. But if x is negative in here, then we get negative x. With negative of an x that's negative would be positive. But this is the this is how this is how the square root of x is defined. And so the reason we have to be careful here is because the square root of x is not always x. Sometimes it's x, sometimes it's negative x, depending on where x is going. And so in this case, we have x approaching negative infinity, therefore the square root of x will be negative x. And then down here, we can just leave it like this so that we can divide. Because even if we put in a negative x here, negative x squared is still x inside of here. And so this becomes this. This would be negative x. And then since we have square root dividing by square root, then we can combine them like this. And so this is going to be like this. That should be x, and then that should be -1. And then x squared dividing by x squared is 1. And then right here we have x squared, x dividing by x squared. And so we get 1 over x. So this would be -1. And then we get the square root of 1. And then as x approaches negative infinity, this will go to 0. And so we get -1, 1, which is equal to -1. And now look back at the graph, and then we will see why this is crucial. If we put the square root of x right here, if we put x here, then we would have ended up with just 1. If we put an x right here in the place of x squared, of the square root of x squared, then x divided by x is 1. And then we will end up with the limit of 1 instead of -1. But if we look at the graph, we know that 1 is not the answer, because as x gets closer and closer to negative infinity, y is getting closer and closer to -1, not 1. 1 is the other way. But if x is going to negative infinity, y is going to -1, not 1. And so now we see why this is crucial.